What's up, guys? Today we're going to dive headfirst into the story of Thaddeus Phillips. I don't know if y'all ever heard of Thaddeus Phillips or not. I know me personally, I never heard of him until a few days ago when I started doing research on him. And his story is pretty amazing. So I decided I was going to share that with y'all. Let's dive right into it and check it out. But before we dive into the story today, I want y'all to smash that like button. And I want y'all to smash that sub button. If y'all don't smash that sub button, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get chicken pox. So make sure you smash the sub button, smash that like button, and ring the bell so you get notified every time I post a video.
It's me. Sorry. What did your foot look like?
Backwards.
Let's get a call. Kid. If he's kidnapped, he's in the house on Highway U. Both his legs are broken and his ankle. Here, Joe, come sorry, get out here. He said, no, just get me out of here as soon as you can.
On July 14th, 1995, Thaddeus Phillips and his parents, Connie and Donald, along with Thaddeus' sister, they would all arrive in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Now, Connie and Donald thought that their kids, Thaddeus and his sister, would have such a wonderful and peaceful life whenever they made this move to this town, because this town was like a town that you see on TV. All the kids are just ganged up together, playing together, riding bikes together, eating from the local ice cream truck that drives through. Little did they know that with this move, their son's life would change forever. 2 weeks after the move, Thaddeus, with his sister and parents, would sit down and they would all watch a movie together. Now, Thaddeus and his sister would both fall asleep on the couch. So their parents would allow them to go ahead and sleep on the couch that night. So they went on to their room and they went to bed. A few hours later, Thaddeus would be picked up and carried away. Thaddeus, being half asleep, he just assumed that it was his dad carrying him up to his bedroom.
And I opened up my eyes a little bit, and I'm being carried through my den in our new house, and it's nothing really new to me because my mom and dad carried me to bed when I'd fall asleep before.
A few moments later, Thaddeus could hear the sound of crickets. So he would open his eyes and look around because now he knows he's not being carried to his bedroom by his dad. Well, whenever he opened his eyes and he was looking around, he would see that he is now in front of one of his neighbor's houses. A large teenage boy would set Thaddeus down and say, "Follow me inside." And Thaddeus would later state that if he would have been a little bit bigger and a little older, he would have probably tried to make a run for it. But this boy was much larger and much older than he was, so he just followed him in the house. The boy seemed to be at home alone, but his home looked like any teenager's home. It was filled with snacks and car models and a bunch of posters all over the walls. Now, this boy really seemed like he just wanted a friend.
Being the nicest guy in the world, talking about models and baseball cards and football cards, and that's what I was into at the time.
And this boy would introduce himself to Thaddeus, and his name was Joe. And he told Thad that he was getting ready to throw a big party. He said the names of a few other boys that Thad already knew, and said they was going to be here real soon for the party. So Thad, thinking that these boys would be at Joe's house real soon for the party, he got real excited. Soon after, Joe had asked Thad if he wanted to come upstairs and see his card collection. So Thaddeus just would follow him on upstairs, thinking nothing was wrong. That's when everything would change.
We were sitting on his bed. He was sitting next to me, and just all of a sudden he stood up.
Joe grabbed Thad with all of his might and threw him on the bed. And then he grabbed his foot and completely twisted it backwards. Thad was completely in a state of shock. He was trying to come to terms with exactly what just happened, but he knew that he needed to get home right now. As Joe pulled back and started mumbling to himself, Thaddeus took this moment and he shot downstairs, headed right for the front door. But Thaddeus was in such a state of shock, he didn't realize that his ankle was completely broken. So Thaddeus wouldn't make it too far.
Kind of looked away, and as soon as he looked away, I got up and ran as fast as I could down the stairs. Can't run very fast with a broken ankle. But I got down the stairs and through his living room into the kitchen before he finally caught up to me and got behind me and put me in a hole, dragged me back into his living room.
Joe would then proceed to break Thad's hip bone and femur, and poor Thad would pass out from all the pain that he was enduring. But when Thad woke back up, he was on the couch, and sitting next to him was Joe. Joe wanted to be friends again, and Thad was scared and confused, and he would ask Joe, "Why would you do something like this to me?" Joe would tell Thad that it was absolutely nothing personal, that he really enjoyed breaking bones. He talked like he had no choice but to snatch kids from their home and do this to them. He showed Thad no empathy at all. He was Joe's toy now. Joe would then go on to tell Thad to get some sleep. Thad was not your average 13-year-old child. He never wallowed in his pain. Thad's only thought was survival. So whenever Joe wasn't around, Thad took this time to study every corner of the house that he could see from the sofa. He was looking for weapons, he was looking for way outs, he was looking for phones, he was looking for anything that he could use to escape this house of horrors. Aside from all the moldy leftovers, the piles of dirty clothes, there was absolutely nothing Thad could use as a weapon. There was no phone, he couldn't see anything. Then he would try to get off the couch. This is when the pain would truly kick in. Shivers went through his body as he was paralyzed with unspeakable pain for the rest of the night. The next morning, Thad would ask Joe could he call his parents, and Thad was very surprised when Joe said sure and handed him the phone. So Thad grabbed the phone from Joe, dialed his parents' number, and held the phone close to his ear waiting for it to ring. And as he was waiting for the phone to ring, he could hear Joe laughing in the background. To Thad's surprise, Joe cut the cord to the phone. But Thad was so intent on surviving that he didn't even express any anger in his face. He acted like the prank that Joe just pulled on him was funny, and he started laughing. So Thad got a plan together in his head. He was going to try to befriend Joe. Maybe Joe would let him go then.
That's exactly what I was trying to do, is to talk to him, maybe kind of be friends with him so he wouldn't want to hurt me no more. I was just hoping to hear a knock on the door. It'd be my dad at the door, but that never happened.
So for the next 2 hours, they sat together on the couch and watched TV just as they did the day before. After sitting there a while, Joe would get up and turn and look at Thad. He was manic and enraged. Joe grabbed Thad and took him upstairs and grabbed his left ankle and twisted it all the way around and then broke his hip. And Thad, feeling nothing but adrenaline, would get up off the bed and start fighting Joe back.
Punched him in the back, and he turned around and put a pillow over my face and told me that if I didn't stop fighting, he's gonna break my back or my neck.
So from that point on, Thad never fought back again. He would just do what he was told, but he would always keep in the back of his head, how am I going to escape this place? After Joe broke Thad's legs into pieces, he would sit down next to him on the bed and show him something that he was really excited about. He would then explain to Thad that he loves fixing bones after he breaks them.
There was some childlike almost fascination with making him right, so then he could just, again, continue to do torture. He had that, forgive the term, captive audience for as long as he wanted. The fun is in making him dysfunctional again.
He had tons of leg braces, piles of bandages and white socks just stuffed in drawers all around the house. So Joe would then go on to put both of Thad's legs into leg braces and wrap them in several socks. Just imagine how horrible this must have been for Thad. Joe breaking his legs and then repairing his legs. That's crazy to think about. In the evening, Joe would announce that he was going out. He left Thad upstairs on the bed. But before Joe left, Thad heard Joe talking to somebody. So Thad would listen closely to see if someone was actually in the house or if it was Joe on the phone. Turns out it was Joe on the phone talking to somebody. This means there is actually another phone in the house besides the one that Joe gave Thad earlier with the cut cord. This is Thad's only chance at freedom. Now Joe knew it was pretty risky to leave Thad at home alone, but Joe had plans that he was not willing to cancel.
Before he left Saturday night, he made sure that he busted me up pretty good so that I wouldn't try to leave.
But Joe was never really aware just how intent Thad was on surviving. As soon as Thad heard the door shut behind Joe, he crawled out of the bed and he started making his way towards the stairs. Now Thad's legs were completely broken, so Thad's only hope were his 2 arms, and his arms was hurting so bad. He finally made it to the staircase, and when he made it to the staircase, he tried to go down the stairs with his legs first, and he completely passed out from the pain. So whenever Thad woke up, he knew that there was only one way to get down these stairs.
Myself down the stairs, and I dragged myself in the living room. And this took, I don't know how many hours it took, but I kept passing it and I didn't know.
Thad made it all the way to the kitchen doorway, and then Joe returned home with his girlfriend.
Thinking be smart, don't make him mad. So I'm laying there and I'm listening and I'm being quiet as hell.
Poor Thad was completely paralyzed with pain. Thad was hiding behind the kitchen doorway, and he could hear Joe in the other room kissing and smooching all over this girl, but whenever this girl would leave, Joe would soon find Thad hiding behind the door. If things could get any worse for Thad, they did that night. Now, you might be thinking, since Thad has only been gone for 24 hours, that nobody was looking for him. Yes, his parents were looking for him as soon as they realized that someone has taken him, or at least convinced him to go with them. Connie and Donald got in their car and started driving through town, and then soon they would exit the town. They was out looking for their son. They was looking for clues for their son. They was looking for anything that they could possibly find that could lead them to their son. Ironically, they never thought that Thad could possibly be in the neighbor's house. But that's exactly where he was.
We drove around and looked around. We went out to the river and I searched the fairgrounds. Just never thought to check house to house because we didn't know any of the neighbors right close, so if I would have probably found him before he was hurt as bad as he was.
On Saturday evening, Connie and Donald would go to the police and they would file a missing person report. Soon after they filed the report, officers arrived at their house. Now these police officers was looking for any clues or any signs to point towards foul play. And being that the police didn't find any clues or any signs of where Thad might be, they told his parents to stay next to the phone in case they had a breakthrough.
Just couldn't believe what was going on. What was going on? I didn't know what to think. I just wanted to hear from him.
The next morning, Joe woke Thad up with promises of punishment since he tried to escape the night before.
He's jumping on my legs with his knees, and I was just trying to talk to him to keep him away from me.
One of Thad's questions for Joe that day was, has he ever done this to anyone before? And since Joe was so convinced that Thad would die that weekend, he would confess that he has killed a few boys before Thad. Now, Joe's confession was in line with an ongoing investigation back in 1994. Now, 1 year prior, a 14-year-old boy named Chris Steiner had gone missing. Chris Steiner went to bed early on the 4th of July weekend. Chris's dad seen that he was fast asleep, so he went in there, tucked him in, and shut his bedroom door. Just an hour or two later, someone came in and took Chris from his bed. The following morning, Chris's parents called 911 whenever they realized that Chris was nowhere in the house. The officers would note that Chris's window screen had been cut up and they seen muddy footprints in the yard. Now these footprints was way bigger than Chris's footprints, so this had to be an abduction. But for about a week, the police found nothing. On July 10th, however, the tragic news would reach Chris's family.
We found a body floating, partially submerged. It was immediately apparent that the body was in very poor condition. It was in an advanced state of decomposition.
Officers had to find Chris's killer fast and at least try to put the small town of 11,000 people to rest. But the only name that came up was obtained by Chris's parents. After asking around the school and all of Chris's friends and all their neighbors, the name that was brought up was Joseph or Joe Clark, a local teenage bully. He was violent and had a knack of targeting young teenage boys.
Well, hearsay, nobody could give me something that directly stated that, yeah, they heard from Joe Clark directly that this is what he said.
But that was not enough for the officers to arrest Joe, so the case turned cold. And now that Thad heard Joe say that he took Chris's life, and Joe was very proud of his previous deeds, Joe was very excited that he was going to get to take Thad's life real soon. But Joe was also waiting for his girlfriend to come back over that night. And Thad knew that Joe was waiting on his girlfriend. So every time Joe would go to attack Thad, Thad would make up a claim that he hears his girlfriend downstairs knocking on the door.
I'd say, oh, I can hear something.
Joe's girlfriend eventually did arrive, so Joe locked Thad in the closet. At this point, all of Thad's broken bones in his legs was causing internal bleeding to build up. As the pain is getting worse and worse, Thad realizes that death is imminent, so he starts looking around the closet for something to use, and he finds an old electric guitar.
Busted a panel off the door and was able to unlock it.
With whatever power Thad has left, he takes that old electric guitar and he smashes it through the closet door. Thad crawls down the hallway and throws himself down the stairs, and he's passing out repeatedly. Refusing to give up, finally he made it to the kitchen where he finds the phone. The phone is connected to the wall, but the cord is hanging down. So Thad reaches up and grabs the cord and yanks on it, and the phone earpiece falls down, and Thad grabs it, and luckily the numbers was on the phone itself. So Thad quickly dials 911.
He was so calm and collected that I felt he was playing a prank.
Better not fear Joe. Come sorry to that guy. He said, no, he said, just get me out of here as soon as you can.
Here, it's me.
Sorry.
I can't believe the kid busted out of there. Can't believe he's still alive.
When the officers finally find Thad, almost every bone in his body was broken. He was swollen, his skin was violet, and the paramedics would conclude that he has about 1 to 2 hours left to live. Thaddeus was a superhero through and through. The minute he met his parents at the hospital, he told them he wasn't the only victim. They had to convict Joe for every life that he had taken. At last, Joe was officially connected to Chris Steiner's death. Thad's only wish was to get better so he could testify against Joe.
And what did your foot look like?
Backwards.
Joe just stood there with a dumb look on his face as his attorney went for the insanity defense. He claimed that Joe didn't remember anything, but he would not get away with that. The prosecutor pulled out Joe's dirty school book from the evidence bag and read out loud.
There were 3 sheets of paper. There were 3 lists. One was called Get to Know. One was called Can Wait. And one was called Leg Thing. There were lists of boys on each of those.
Joe wanted to make a career out of this. It was around this time Joe got the nickname the Bone Breaker. He was sentenced to life plus 100 years in prison. And Thad testified at both his trial and the trial of Chris Steiner. Shockingly, just before Chris's trial, Thad was shot twice by a 15-year-old named Michael Hubish. He was Joe's friend and also his neighbor, but shockingly, Thad survived, and he carried on with Chris's trial. People like Thad are rare. His will to live was almost supernatural, and it was all due to his love for his family. He has his own family now, and he has the knowledge that he helped put a monster behind bars forever. Well, that's it for today, guys. If y'all made it this far in the video, make sure y'all hit the like button and hit that sub button and ring that bell so you get notified every time I post a video on the channel. I appreciate y'all watching. This the Big Dog, signing off.